What's up? This is Simon from Devtactica and the Ionic Academy. Today we will build a simple Ionic WordPress client using the WordPress API and a very cool wrapper library for Angular to use the WordPress API. So this was created by Julian. Thanks again. Great job. First of all, make sure you have typings installed globally for this package, and then you can follow to install the WordPress API Angular package. There's not much we have to install additionally. So as you can see, I've started a blank new Ionic app, which is running right here. Nothing really special so far. What we need as well is, of course, a WordPress blog somewhere. So this is the REST API of my blog with all the endpoints and stuff. So this is just a test to see if it's working. Anyway, we can continue now. Okay, with the dependencies installed, and we go ahead and create some additional stuff. Can you see this? Okay, Ionic G provider WP provider. Of course, it's not Ionic with a G. So we create one provider, and we will also generate an additional page, which will be the post page. So our provider will help us to deliver the data to our classes, and the page will be used to display a single WordPress post. We can continue with a setup for the WordPress API package, and therefore we go to our app module, and at the top we need to import HTTP, and we need to import some stuff here as well. And what we also need is, of course, the URL to our WordPress blog. In my case, I will take this. The namespace is not needed right now, so we can remove this. In the beginning, I had a TypeScript error. I'm not sure where's our view, if it's working now. Perhaps we are lucky and it's working. Okay, so this is very good because I had the same problem when I first used it. So I copied this out, but it was actually not working. I had to remove the type here, so now it was working. Also, you see we add to some stuff to our imports, which is here. And since we're using already Ionic 3 with Angular 4, we need to import the HTTP module as well, which is also imported from @Angular HTTP. Okay, so make sure to configure your WordPress API module inside your imports here. This will use this custom loader factory, which is responsible for passing in the correct base URL to our WordPress blog. Additionally, we have created a provider called WordPress provider. So put it into your providers array and add the additional statement. Mine is automatically imported already. Also, we're not adding our post page to the declarations or entry components because we use lazy loading with Ionic 3. So we can skip this for now. Okay, let's start with our provider, or actually see, is there still a problem? Perhaps we need to restart it, or well, WP WordPress module loader. And generally, well, I think everything should work, but okay, yeah, it was my own fault because I missed that one. But we can continue with our WordPress provider. First of all, I'm changing this a bit because, let's see. Oh, did I miss it again somewhere? Oh yeah, 2 spots where I missed it. So let's wait a second. I think everything is right now. Sometimes this can take quite a I don't know why. Okay, so the app is running and we're happy to have configured everything right. Okay, back to our provider. We import the injectable for the decorator. We import the map because we want to map our HTTP call later. We need the observable and we need some stuff from the API package. Now what I did as well is I created two custom classes called post and user. The user is a user object and the post, of course, a post object. We will see them in action soon. For now, just notice that I only need to add all this stuff to the constructor and make it public, and we don't have to set all this as additional properties for this class. So this is a shorter way of doing things. Now inside our constructor we want to load an array of users because we will later display an image for a user and we only want to load this once. Therefore we can change our constructor to use the dependencies we need in our file, which are quite a few. And we start with this .wp API users.getList, which will return us an observable, which is a list of users. And we first of all map the data to JSON data, and then we continue and subscribe to our observable. And once we got the data, we set our current users array to an empty array, and then we iterate over the user inside the data array, and for every user we create a new user, and we use some of the properties of the data. You can inspect the data if you want. In my case, I already know what's the name of them, so it's ID, name, and then for the image URL we need user, avatar, URLs, and then the one for the biggest avatar, right? I think. Okay. And of course we need to push to our users array the new user. So this is the first step. We can log it out if we want to. So my users. Actually, I'm not going to log my own users because, well, there are users on my blog which might not want to be shown here. So let's hope that this works and it's not throwing an error. I will copy in two functions because they are more or less not really interesting. So these two functions will help us to get an image for a user ID or get a username for a user ID. And in both cases, we just iterate over our own array and check if the ID we gave to the function matches the one of the object and return either the URL or the name. So those two are not really interesting at all. Let's start with the maybe most interesting one, which is of course get posts. And this will return an observable, and this will be an array of posts. So we can use it in a nice way later on. And in this case, we will return something to our view, and we use now the WordPress API, of course with a small one, get list. Is it right? Yeah, I think so. And again, I'm a bit lazy. Let's copy this. We need to change it to JSON. And then we also transform the data to something else inside this map block. So what we did before for the users, are we going to do as well for the data right here. So let's see what we got here. We iterate over the data we got from the API. And for each data block, we create a new post object and passing in some of these properties you see. The only interesting thing right here is actually this one. Let me write the function and I will explain it in a second, because I thought long how to actually solve this in a good way, and I think this way is quite good. So every post of course has a header image in my case, and we don't want to always reload and reload and reload those images. So at this point where we're receiving the list of API posts, we're setting the media URL for one post to this function, which is an observable of a string. So this will at some point return the string to the image URL, and we save this observable right to media URL. This is also why I added this additional property right here. Maybe I could also have added it to the constructor as an optional, but I want to separate it so you can see it. By doing this, you will see how easily we can actually use this later on. The getMedia function, which will in the end return our string, is not really interesting. So this time we use API media and get the media URL for an ID. So each image has an ID. And then we return the source URL of that image. Okay, so this is our provider. Of course, you might need different things, but for now this is pretty strong and working actually very good. Now we come to our home TS. Inside our imports, we import our own provider and also a loading controller, because we want to show some loading events while grabbing our data. And I can add this because the loading indicator is not really what's interesting in this video at all. So we call this.presentLoading, and then we call our WordPress provider. We need to import it, of course. I don't know, my autocorrection is not that good today. I'm not sure what's wrong, because in general it works good. Whatever. We call get posts. Perhaps we call get posts, and we can also already create our array right here, which will be used inside our view. And remember, we used an observable of the type post array. So now we can fill this array with the result of this call. Let's see. Okay, actually, this moment we won't see anything, but we add another do block, and inside this block, let's see, we will just log out. I think we could also at this point log our array. So let's try that. And what we also need to do as well at this spot is to hide our loader. So we will have a loader of the type loading. In the present loading, we will set it, and here we will just dismiss it. I think my auto-completion is somehow broke a bit today. And my automatic import is as well not that good. So, okay, we're loading, and we're actually loading very long. Perhaps I should reload once again. Okay, so something is wrong here, because where is it? I'm not completely sure, because is it wrong? Where is it? wpi posts.getList. Let me check this for a second. Of course, we missed one thing in our getPosts function, and this is first of all this dot. No, actually it's not this, but it's this one. And in the end, we have to, of course, return posts, because otherwise the function would be returning void and not an observable of the type post. And if we hit reload now and wait a second, I'm not completely sure what went wrong here, but yesterday was working and today not, so I changed this now. So we assign our observable just to our posts and subscribe to the data, and once we got the data, we dismiss our loading. And we can now see that we got a list of 10 posts, and each post has exactly the information we specified inside our class for the post. So until here we are now fine, and we need two more functions here because we want to grab a user image based on the ID, and in this case we will simply use our own provider. So call our provider and get user image for our ID. And the second one is almost the same, but in this case we want to get the user name. So we call get user name on our provider. Okay, so far it's working, hopefully for you. And now we can actually go to our view and implement the simple WordPress view. So we call it Ionic plus WordPress, perhaps set the color to primary. And now we create a very simple Ion card ng for loop. So we go over all the posts, and as this is an observable right here, so it's not a standard array, we have to use the async pipe here. Now we attach the click event to our card, which will open the post. So this is our task after this view, and we also add the tappable directive here, so our card responds a bit better to actions. Perhaps we can already add this, so we are done with this view. So we got the post object, and now we use again Ionic lazy loading. So we use the nav controller push event function, but we don't pass the page, but only the string, which is the name of our post page we have created in the beginning. And as a nav param, we pass the post, and that's everything. Now back to the view. We have our Ion card, and at the top we first of all want to have the image of the post, which is inside media URL. And remember, where is it? This is as well an observable which will be loaded in the background. So we also use the async pipe here. Next we got the information about the author. So we put it in Ion item and use the avatar, perhaps item left, so it looks good. And inside we again got an image, and this time we use get user image for post.author_id. That's all of our magic here for the avatar. Of course, we also need the username, and guess what? We use get username of post.author_id and close. Okay, now to the content of the card. In the content of the card, we want to display the excerpt, so this little snippet at the beginning of every WordPress post. And first of all, we need an Ion card title, because of course each post has a title, but below this title we now got the content, and we are using a bit different ways. So we use inner HTML for a div element, just because if we would use this, perhaps I can show you like this, it would not work like we want it to. So first of all, let's see if our view is working. Yeah, there it is. So we got our images, our username, our user avatar, and you can see that there are HTML tags in the excerpt. So this is the reason why we have to change it to be inside the inner HTML. So we already trust this HTML tags and render them correctly, which will then look like this. So no more ugly text around them. And we are already pretty far inside our tutorial and almost at the end. So we got our list, it is tappable, and we're coming to the next page. So we only need to implement the last missing pieces for our page. And also, okay, so with a recent update this was fixed. It's already called right. That means we can go to our post page and remove a bit of this. Oh, it already has the decorator. Yeah, this looks nice. So what we need is one post, of course, of the type post, and we can set this post directly to the navparams.get, and we passed it as post object. We don't need this. We actually don't need anything here at all. And the view is also quite simple, just the basics. So at the top we use again the title, and that's our header bar. And inside the content we remove the padding. We again show the image, which is in post, media, URL, and we still use this pipe because perhaps the image is not yet ready loaded. It can happen. And we also need the content, and we put it again into inner HTML and post.content. And now we are happy with our WordPress client. Cannot read property title. Perhaps because the app was starting on the wrong page. So now we're back here and we navigate to this post and we see our title, we see our image and the complete code of the, no, not the code, but the content of our post. We could add some padding here. It looks not good. Oh yeah, you see if it's starting on the wrong page, the post title is not defined. So we need to start on this page, and then we can go ahead and navigate to whatever the image gallery post. Now we also got padding and we got the complete text for our post. Of course my plugins from WordPress won't work here, so that syntax highlighting is not given for the code snippets, but you can see all the images from the posts as well. And you can navigate through my last and recent posts and always get the header post and the complete post. So maybe I should even do an app for my blog. I don't know, maybe. Okay, so if you're just starting out, make sure to configure your WordPress API loader factory right here. If you want, you can use my provider, which is another wrapper around some stuff, and you will find all the code in the related tutorial below this post. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want more tutorials, make sure to follow my blog, or if you want in-depth training with video courses and projects, you can check out the Ionic Academy. The link is also in the video and below. And I hope to see you next time on my channel. Goodbye.